what's up you guys, the Curious Owl here, and today I'm going to be discussing the book OtherWorld by Jason Segel and Kirsten Miller. This was the group book for the biannual bibliothon, and if you guys did not get to watch any of my videos from the biannual bibliothon, there will be a playlist linked in the video for you guys to go check them out. I had a wonderful time doing this week of reading and video challenges and things of that nature, and if you want to basically get my overall wrap-up of the week and my reading goals and all that kind of stuff, I will also leave that video linked for you guys to go check out. And this was actually the first book that I finished in the biannual bibliothon, and to kind of try to describe it is a little difficult as there's a lot that kind of goes on with it, but I'm going to do my best to try to make it as simple as possible. So we're placed in the modern world, and 20 years prior there was a very popular MMO game called OtherWorld, where basically you created characters and you just kind of went around this new area and just kind of fought off monsters and did quests and things of that nature. The game was super popular within the video game world, and unfortunately it kind of went off the face of the earth. Then several years later, a young man at the age of 29 decides he wants to revive the game and basically make it more modern for today's players of video games by making it a virtual reality or VR game. At this point in the story, in the very beginning, only a certain amount of people have access to it as it is in its early access phase. The game itself is used through an app that is free, but you are required to use certain technology that costs a lot of money to be able to use. Our main character Simon buys not just one set of equipment for this, but two, in order to allow his best friend Kat to also partake in this new game, and it's kind of a way for him to start talking with her again because unfortunately, for some unknown reason, he has lost contact with her over the last several months, and a lot of the story is him trying to find her and being able to talk with her. After Kat gets in a mysterious accident, which leaves her body entirely paralyzed, some people that work for the OtherWorld company bring a game out that allows her to be able to live a actual full life in a new way without her ever actually having to move in real life. And so Simon also is able to use this game to be able to go into this game of OtherWorld and try to find her and figure out what exactly is going on, as a lot of things don't seem to be as they truly look. And a lot of this book is focusing on that aspect and that journey of trying to find Kat, to find out what exactly is going on. So there is a lot of mystery and intrigue and suspense that is built into this novel, which I thought was really well done. I really enjoyed the pacing of the novel, especially because there was a lot of lull points in the beginning to give us a lot of background as to the relationship of Kat and Simon and kind of what has led up to it, but it wasn't info dumpy. And unfortunately, a lot of books that are in this kind of sci-fi-y, almost dystopian kind of thing, they tend to get very info dumpy in the very beginning of the novel, which this did not happen. So I was very appreciative that Jason Segel and Kirsten Miller were able to give a lot of information in a short amount of time without feeling like it was just kind of too overwhelming and too much. I will say though that towards the end of the book that there was a point that seemed to be a little bit more info dumpy than other times, but it wasn't enough to where I felt that it was a major problem. There was just a lot of information that was brought out at the very end of the novel that really seemed to be a lot, but wasn't too much in my opinion, but I really can see how a lot of people would be like, that's a little too much. One of the things that you will have to know when going into this book is that Simon is the most unlikable character you will ever meet. He is the most unlikable main character especially. He is crass, he is rude, he has a very vulgar sense of humor, and unfortunately for a lot of people that's been the downfall of this novel, is they couldn't connect with Simon as they did not like him as a person. But personally, I enjoyed the fact that he was so unlikable because I find too many novels focus on making the main characters so likable by making them perfect individuals and cookie cutter individuals, where Simon is not. He is a rough and tumble guy, he's been through a lot, and unfortunately for him, things just seem to get way worse. And he kind of uses his vulgar humor as a coping mechanism, which is very realistic in his kinds of situation and his scenarios that he's been in. So I don't know, I personally thought that it was a lot cooler to see a rough and tumble kind of character as our main character in the story, as opposed to him being, you know, kind of more cookie cutter and dreamy like, as many other YA novels tend to do with their male main characters. So I greatly appreciated it. I appreciated a lot of the humor, and the best part about it is if you know who Jason Segel is, he's one of the authors of this novel, but he's also an actor and has been in shows such as How I Met Your Mother. You can clearly see in this novel his kind of humor, especially if you've watched him in How I Met Your Mother. I can't exactly pinpoint the kind of humor that I think Jason Segel does, but it's very adult-like. It's not super vulgar, but it's definitely more adult humor, I think, than a lot of other people would expect from a YA novel. But if you've seen Jason Segel as an actor, you definitely can see a lot of the humor that he has as a person and as an actor that is incorporated into the character of Simon, which I thought was freaking amazing, because that's what I love about what authors do when they make their main characters, is they implement something about themselves into these characters, whether it's a certain personality trait or a like or a dislike or just the style of humor. I just really enjoy that, because that's what I do with my stories. Every main character I have, or maybe even a secondary character, somewhere in the stories I write, I incorporate some little Easter egg of something about myself in those stories, because it's so fun to get people to kind of look for them and see what those Easter eggs are so that I can expand on those things later. So it's just one of those really cool things that I thought was so creative and so cool to help us really see Jason's kind of humor, but also really develop the kind of humor that Simon as an individual has as well. The overall world building of the video game I thought was interesting, because a lot of it is very open. There's a lot that goes into this game, as it's still kind of early access. There's not a lot that's built up, so you can see different areas in this game as you're reading passages about the gameplay that, you know, seem to be underdone, and that's because, like I said, it's an early access, which makes it more realistic in my opinion, because if it's going to be in an early access stage, there's not going to be a lot that's involved in the gameplay. If you play games quite often, you will see the difference between an early access game versus a finished game. There is a lot more that is incorporated in a finished game in terms of storyline and build and things of that nature. So to see that the early access stage of it had a lot of bugs and different things that were underdeveloped was very interesting to see, because I think we would be more accustomed to see things as a finished product, whereas this is not what that is. And I really appreciated the fact that we got to see something as it was starting to build, and really seeing some of the things that needed to be worked on and things that definitely needed to be expanded. The thing about this novel is that you can't really discuss a whole lot about it without spoiling anything, because there is a lot that goes on in just this first novel. I will say though that it is supposed to be either the beginning of a series or at least the beginning of a duology. I don't know exactly what Jason Segel and Kirsten Miller have in store for this, if it's going to be a duology or be a full out series, but the way that the story ends is very much a satisfying end to me, because it doesn't end abruptly like I would have thought it would, but it actually kind of ends in a way that shows you that there's going to be more, but doesn't leave you hanging on a thread either, which is really, really nice. The thing I think that is the most important aspect of this book is that no matter where you are on the gaming spectrum, whether you have little to no gaming experience or 20 plus years of gaming experience, you are going to find some kind of enjoyment out of this novel in the fact that it is purely focused on video games. You don't have to have a lot of knowledge of video games to understand what's going on in the story, as it doesn't go into any real technical or real creative things that involve the actual gaming process and how to build a game. It's more of just actually being sucked into the game itself and seeing things through Simon's eyes as he's going through the actual game. There's nothing really involved with the mechanics and everything. There is a little bit of information in terms of how some of the equipment works, but it's clear enough to where someone who doesn't have as much video game knowledge or may not have any video game knowledge would be able to understand. That's basically all I really have to say about OtherWorld by Jason Segel and Kirsten Miller. Honestly, I really enjoyed the crap out of it. I actually enjoyed it way more than I had anticipated, because going into this novel, I was a little hesitant too, because I'm not super well versed in video games. I've played a lot of games on my channel in the past. I've never really played games though that are more MMO based, things like World of Warcraft or things of that nature, and so I was a little scared going into it because I didn't think I was going to enjoy that aspect as much. But if anything, I've actually come away with this wanting to play games like World of Warcraft and building my own character and stuff like that, because it sounds so much more enticing after having read this book. And so yeah, I ended up giving this book 5 out of 5 stars. I really didn't see much that was wrong with it. I did see a lot of places though and things, including the unlikability of Simon that can upset a lot of people. But anyway, thank you guys so much for joining me in this review of OtherWorld by Jason Segel and Kirsten Miller. And if you guys did enjoy this review, please do give it a big thumbs up. And if you're not already and you'd like to be, hit that button down below and subscribe to become an owlet in our flock. And I will see all of you guys in my next video. Bye, guys!